Okay, just drop a 1 if you can hear me okay. Today we're going to be talking about these really serious reports actually that are coming out about the United States. We'll also touch upon a couple of global reports here as well. We'll touch on the UK. But yeah, there's some pretty bad reports coming out at the moment. This really builds upon what we've been talking about with this. Okay, great, thank you. You can hear me okay. With this fourth turning cycle that we remember, this is what the channel is about. It's about preparing you for a lot of these things. That's what I see my job as, to really help you to navigate, and your families to navigate through these crises that we are actually going through at the moment. So I pulled up a few reports for you today, which I think will be really quite useful actually for you. And I want to start with the main one that I picked up on today. We've got Sweden online. We're going to talk about Sweden later on as well, actually. A new report that's just come out there. So this is the main article I want to focus on today, because we keep seeing on the mainstream media how the US is not in a recession, the US is doing fine, everything's great, bring on 2024, all this sort of stuff. But actually, what I look at is not the media and what they're saying. What I look at is the data, the statistics, the facts and the reports. So we've had this article come out, incomes are falling in 17 states. So this is throughout the USA. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I just saw this breaking news all over the media saying that Social Security payments, it says that people are celebrating. I don't think anyone's celebrating this, are going to rise by 3.2%. This is in 2023, in order to compensate for the high levels of inflation suffered. So this is going to rise in 2024, sorry. So they're saying it's going to rise by 3.2%. To counteract the high levels of inflation over recent years. If anyone thinks inflation over recent years has been 3.2%, I don't think I can help those people, if anyone honestly believes that, when we've seen 50% in food just over the last few years. So 3.2% is not going to do anything. So who these people are that are celebrating, I really don't know. I don't even think they exist, actually. So there was a survey as well on CBS News. So it was a poll, and it actually shows where people are suffering throughout the US at the moment. And this is due to inflation and decreased earnings. So this is one of the most popular things here. Median household incomes fell 1/3 in US states as well last year. So this is something you're not really hearing about. So those 17 states, mainly in the Midwest and the Northeast, experienced the harshest economic declines. And these are actually key electoral states like Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, etc. So I think this will be interesting to see how they vote in 2024. The poll also said that it was, despite a robust labor market, stagnant or reduced earnings contribute to the negative perception of the economy. And here's the irony. The US median household income decreased by 2.3% last year to $74,500. That is actually the third year of decline for median incomes across the US. So there's a few other things that were brought up. High inflation. This is staggering. Okay, you ready for this? A lot of people were shocked or surprised that federal stimulus checks and expanded child tax credits were stopped under a Democratic government, or Democrat government, however they say it here. How on earth people were shocked and surprised that these stimulus checks and other things ended. And it says that the majority of respondents did not prepare their finances for the end of these stimulus checks and other things, the COVID era benefits and stuff like that. So a lot of people said they just didn't prepare for this stuff. How on earth that's possible, I'm not sure. Consumer sentiment as well remains very low. Senior citizens living on fixed incomes are most affected by inflation. The poverty rate for individuals over 65, so retirement age, this rose to 14% last year and is expected to rise a lot higher this year. We have states with older populations, New Hampshire, they experience the steepest declines. And then, one thing I just want to say on this as well is that I think the problem here is that money and finance and economics and what we used to call home ec, these things are not taught in schools anymore. And I think this is one of the biggest issues that we're seeing. It's just not taught in schools. And as a result, people do not understand money. And that's why that's one of the pure reasons I created my money courses, my finance courses. You can see the links below in the description, etc. One of the key reasons I created those courses because I realized, having gone through school and education myself, that money just wasn't taught. And I'll put my hands up and say I was terrible with money. I really was. I was just terrible with money. I didn't understand how money worked. All I saw was, excuse me, adverts and commercials and media telling me to spend. Hey, get this credit card, get this loan, go into massive debt, look good, get a nice car, get this. And I very quickly realized that wasn't the way, because when you take on a lot of debt, you become a slave to the lender. This is very clear. It's in the Bible as well. It says it very clearly. When you take on too much debt, you become slave to the lender. So as a result of things like this, I said, you know what? I need to fix this for myself. And then only once I'd fixed it, I realized actually I was kind of an outlier in understanding these sort of things, because other people didn't know the things I knew about money and the psychology of money. And I do feel really blessed now that I created those training courses, because I'm seeing it straight away. So many people emailing me, saying testimonials, thanking me. It's going to change my family's life and finances and all these other things. So I'm just so grateful that I got that wisdom to create those courses, because I know it's changing a lot of lives right now. So, I just want to say, don't get caught out by all of this with all the finance and all the media and all the propaganda and everything else that we're seeing. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses. You don't have to do all this crazy stuff that you keep seeing. Just do you, and just stay true to yourself and maintain your integrity, and you will pull through this. But this is not a time to be going crazy with spending. I just want everyone to understand this. I think they're going to announce the recessions, plural, in probably January 2024. I think it's going to come through, where they are going to officially announce that we have been in recession for a long time. And that's psychological as well. I talked about the psychology of wealth and the psychology of money a moment ago, but this is psychological as well, because the average person waits for the government to tell them, or they wait for the government to tell them what to do or what's happening, as opposed to looking at it with their own eyes. So what I think is going to happen is that when the government or the media tells us we're now in a recession, this is when people are going to go crazy. They're going to tighten their belts. They're just going to go crazy with all of this stuff. So just be prepared for this. Now, the other thing is what's going on at the moment. Banks are now making it a lot tougher to get any form of credit. So this is, they're saying they're tightening all the lending standards on finance. So this is consumer finance. So they've said they're tightening from now, they're making it even tighter on consumer loans, credit cards, auto loans, mortgages, HELOCs, which home equity loans of credit. So they're doing all these other things. And then what we talked about in yesterday's video, crucial video, is how the banks are then not going to actually allow the refinancing of certain mortgages. Okay, and that's where liens and all sorts of other things come in if you don't meet all the climate 2030 goals. So there's a lot going on. You've got to prepare for all of this. I hope I'm doing a good job in preparing you with these videos, with the courses, of course. We have another article just out then. Americans increasingly concerned about losing jobs amid a housing crisis. So this was a survey by Fannie Mae. Yeah, this was their most recent housing survey. So the biggest concerns around Americans right now, and again, we say Americans, but it's pretty much most Western people, is job security due to high mortgage rates and the cost of essential goods. So one thing that we might actually see then is maybe, I don't think people are just going to move for the sake of moving house. Because if you've got, some people have got a 1.9% mortgage, 15-year mortgage, you might have a 2.9% 30-year mortgage in the US. People are not going to move from that to take on an 8% mortgage elsewhere, because they're going to get probably half the house that they are getting right now. So you're not going to necessarily see that. But what you could see are people losing their jobs and then not being able to afford the mortgage payments, especially if they have to refinance. Certain people, and I think this will be heavy in the UK as well, it's not really about the mortgage rates per se, it's about the affordability to pay those mortgage rates. So I think this is another thing that we need to watch out for, and that could come down the line here. So what did they say in their survey then? They're saying that there's growing pessimism towards the housing market, and people are starting to get strained. A lot of people are concerned they might have to sell their homes in order to actually make a rent payment, because they don't think they're going to be able to afford their homes, which again doesn't necessarily make sense to me, because you can either rent or you can pay a mortgage. Why would you walk away from home equity, which a lot of people have got at the moment? I don't think you really would. Only 17% of respondents expect a decrease in mortgage rates within the next 12 months. So this is that's a very small number, tells you the sort of sentiment. And then I want to just, excuse me, gosh, I just want to mention as well conflicts that we're seeing, because remember we talked about, and again, we're going back a long way, but the fourth turning cycle, and that probably seemed quite alarmist, the things I was saying a long while back, where I said we'll see multiple conflicts across multiple regions. And people would just say, well, there's just nothing like that on the horizon. Where are you seeing this? And I'm not saying I forecasted anything that's happening. I didn't forecast Russia and Ukraine. I had no idea that was going to happen. I didn't forecast what happened at the weekend with Israel and now, Palestine, everything going on there with just a crazy, crazy situation, right? I didn't forecast any of this. I didn't foresee any of this. All I foresaw was studying the fourth turning cycle, studying history, and knowing what we're going to be going into. It's just, to me, this is what I do, this is what I studied, and this is what I see coming. And I do see this getting worse. Again, not to worry you too much, because we've got an article on mental health here, which is through the roof. But it's not about worrying you, it's just about being prepared for these things, okay? Because it is going to get worse. They always do, these cycles. They always get worse before they get better. But that's the good news. Once we've gone through it, you normally see this beautiful Renaissance period where everything is renewed and, the swamp is drained of all the bad people and stuff like that. So that's one thing to look forward to. But we've got a lot further to go yet. There's many years of this yet to go. Now, one of the top search results, again, you look at trends and trends tell you, one of the top search results on Google is, will I get drafted to war? Yes, this is the highest search since 2007. Will I get drafted to war? Or how old do you have to be to get drafted to war? So these are some of the biggest search at the moment. It tells you the sentiment. And remember, it's group mindset mentality as well. It's more sort of, how can I describe that? It's more in the metaphysical. I won't go into the metaphysical actually, but as everyone starts to think these same things at the same time, it starts to sort of manifest. Now, we've got a lot of political commentators, you've probably seen these as well over the last 24 hours. They're saying that this conflict that's just broken out could actually lead to a new civil war or religious war, which would pull in Western countries. And when I heard that, I didn't quite understand where they were going from with that until I saw my TikTok feed, which I don't necessarily like TikTok, but it gives you fast news on the ground, so you can see what's happening really quickly. And I did not know that there were tens of thousands of protesters walking through Western cities right now. I did not know. It's not been on the mainstream media, and I only picked that up from my X feed and then the TikTok feed. I was quite surprised actually to see a lot of the things that's happening right now. It's I can see where they're going with this. This could bring in a lot of tension, because now the West is not what it used to be. It's not just a Christian nation. You have a lot of different faiths. You have a lot of, so many different faiths now within the West and within the big cities, that I can understand where they're going with this. So again, another thing just to watch out for and watch over, so you don't get caught in any violence or anything that might actually take place. Now, moving on, because this is a nice flow actually to today's video, it's flowing really nicely. Public trust in government by the Pew Research Center, 1958 to 2023. This is fascinating. I'll do the US focus part first, and then we'll go to the UK focus. Public trust in the federal government of the USA is now at a record low, a historical record low. It's less than 20% of Americans trust the government and the media. It's only 1% said they trust the government and media all the time. 1%. And 15% said most of the time. But apart from that, everyone else does not trust the government, does not trust the media. So it's staggering, actually. It was actually people who are Democrats. It says 25% of Democrat-leading voters trust the government just about always or most of the time. So this actually government and media, just about always and most of the time, in contrast to 8% of Republicans. Yeah, I've got to say, I'd have to swing towards the Republican side here in terms of this vote. I would definitely not be in the 25% of people trusting the government and media implicitly. Staggering with the things that have gone on over the last 3 years here and all the scandals that have come out. So it's not just the US though. I pulled up the UK as well, and the UK government has the lowest trust level in the G7. 2022 was the lowest trust level ever recorded in history. So again, are you seeing these patterns? You put all these patterns together and you will understand where all of this is going. We are deep now. We're I would say about 40% maybe, something like that through this fourth turning cycle. So we still got another 60%. You think of what's happened so far, add on another 60% to this before we get through it. And that's why they keep talking about 2030 and all these reports about 2030. So we've still got a good distance to go here. Yeah, the UK is the worst in the G7 nations. And the funny thing is, it's not just the worst from that point of view. It's also the worst from the video I did last week. Inflation and wages and debt and all these other things that's going through the UK. Now, one thing that surprised me was that Germany had one of the highest levels of trust in their government throughout the G7. I was very surprised with that. Japan, another very low one. That surprised me. I would have thought it would be the other way around. I would have thought Japan would have a high level of trust in the government. Germany would have a low level of trust, especially after Merkel and everything else, but apparently not. If this survey is correct, we always got to take it with a pinch of salt here, don't we? US confidence in the government dropped from 46% in 2020 all the way down to the levels we just talked about as of 2022. So that's a staggering drop. It really is. And the UK was very similar. And some of the things that have happened recently, they're saying that because of the former US president, we don't use his name on the channel because it creates a flag on the channel, demonetization and everything else. which is funny because I seem to be getting demonetized at the moment. Then I appeal and get monetized again. I get demonetized, appeal, get monetized again. So this is the world we're living in at the moment. But it's saying that the former president, weaponization of the FBI and things like that against him. And by the way, this is a quite a neutral article, and they're using those terms here. It's also talking about Boris Johnson, Partygate scandal during the lockdowns, or having the parties, all these other things. Now, sip of water. Here's where we get to traditional media then. So I mentioned TikTok a moment ago. It's saying that mainstream media are panicking, this is what this article says, because so many people are now turning to TikTok for their news. And just in case you didn't watch that walk and talk where I talked about TikTok and all of my views on it, yes, I believe that it's, there's a lot of propaganda with TikTok, but I also watched a video, it was a documentary with whistleblowers from TikTok. And that was a really good documentary, because what they said was that in the East, and many of the BRICS countries as well, which is ironic, they said that the feed and the things that were shown to Western men, the BRICS Eastern men, were things like honor and service and integrity and be the best you can be and help your country and all these other things. But they said that what they send to men in the West was, all the woke sort of ideology and things like that, or pranks or violence and, all this sort of stuff. And the documentary summarized or theorized that the point of that was to help destabilize Western nations. So I thought that was a very interesting documentary, one for you to actually look at. So I still watch TikTok, I will say that, and X and a couple of others. I'm not big fans of them, but it just helps me to get really quick news and seeing what's happening on the ground, because I hear something that's happening on the mainstream, and I look at the feed on the ground and it's the complete opposite. So okay, you can't always trust what you're seeing there. But what they're saying is that news via websites and TV has dropped dramatically, with younger generations turning to social media. Their main source of news now is TikTok. They prefer, it says, audience prefer to pay attention to influencers over journalists on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. And they just don't trust the media. They don't trust anything that the journalists are saying. They're saying they can see through it. It's obviously very fake. And it's the fastest growing social network for 18 to 24-year-olds, with another 20% usage level up again since last year. Interest in the news has declined 48%. Wow, staggering. And then the last thing then, I mentioned mental health, didn't I, earlier? It's saying that 53% of US respondents in this huge survey they did said that their mental health is their primary health issue as of right now. And this was a significant rise since 2019. So 53% of respondents said they had mental health problems in the US. And I can actually see that, actually, being in the US, just briefly. I can actually see a lot of the issues are. And that's just me being objective and doing what I normally do. I can see it quite clearly. There's a lot of things that are going on here, but when you're in it every day, you don't see the things that are happening. But when you come as an outsider and you look in, you can see the things. Just one example I can give you: the food alone. Gosh. Any more salt leading to water retention, leading to all sorts of other things, the chemicals, the headaches, the stomach aches and everything else. I find it amazing that people can eat out in the US every day without these things. At home, I didn't even realize how clean and organic I ate. I'd never really thought about it before. But things like growing your own vegetables or getting vegetables from the farm store and clean meats and stuff like that. Never really thought about it until eaten in the US. So that's one thing you can change right away, is that. Now, the country with the worst mental health out of all of them was Sweden. I did not expect that. And I'm not going to go into all the details of that because I've talked about this before. I don't want to sway this video after what I said earlier, but there's one thing that's happening in Sweden at the moment that they're saying is causing the most mental health problems. You've also got, so the USA is number 2 and the UK is number 3 in the world for mental health problems. So Sweden, USA, UK. Pretty crazy, pretty crazy. But that is what I've got for you today. So we are seeing a lot of disruption then. We're seeing a lot of problems sweeping through the US with these reports. The media continues to tell everyone that things are going great, everything's wonderful, when it's just not the case. We are going to move into recession very short. We're already in a recession, let me just say that. We're already very deep in a recession, but they just don't want to say it. The inverted yield curve should tell you everything that you want to know about these things anyway. So I've given you lots of tips to think about in this video. And the reason I pause as I'm talking, by the way, is because there's so many comments coming through. I'm trying to read them, see if any of them are relevant. But most of them is just you guys chatting, so that's fine. You feel free to chat with each other. But thanks for watching and being on the stream today. My next video hopefully will be, we'll see if we can get a walk and talk done over the weekend back on the island. Let's see if we can get that done. Otherwise, I'll do a nice studio video again for you. It's been fun doing the live streams. It saves me probably 5 hours of work and editing each day. But it'd be good to get back in the studio and do my walk and talks and just get back on the island. Some nice fresh air all over again. All right. Thanks a lot. Take care. God bless you. God bless your families. I hope you have a wonderful time. See you soon.